That makes it so that can anyone hear us? No, we have it off. I open it. We just heard that Ruth Ginsburg just died. I guess nobody's listening.
Change the name.
You need to be more than equal height. You need to be more equal height so you don't cut your head off. It's horrible. This way Ginsburg. We're going to try and rush something through before the election.
Most people are muted.
Rabbi, can you hear me?
Not even on yet.
Hi, Grandma.
Bradley, come here and help me.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shabbat. We're going to start from light our candles that we've been doing on Shabbat. We're headed out of the season here, just lighting us. We'll make this our last candle lighting. And as much as candle lighting, that we can to somebody who just got word that Jessica Slater Ginsburg passed away. But means a lot for our country. She was a hero of mine, as a woman, right scholar, and a woman, to us.
All right, somebody.
Make this our last candle lighting. And as much as going around that we can, who somebody who just got word that Jessica Slater Ginsburg passed away. But means a lot for our country. She was a hero of mine, as a woman.
Let
Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova. Rosh Hashanah celebrations date back millennia, and while each season of services is different, this year seems especially so. Around the globe, Jews are celebrating these ancient holy days through very modern and very flawed technology. We welcome our members who have chosen to join us in person tonight, and all of our members, friends, and family joining us virtually. In the year that is now ending, I have introduced poetry in our services. We want to start tonight with a poem by Barbara Palacios. It is a Rosh Hashanah reading for our year. The words take on an extra resonance this year. Normally, I see you in the halls of the doors, in the rotunda, in the pews at the store. My heart leaps, happy to feel your presence, to see your smiling face, and like the coming light of illicit bird song, as the dawn brings on wakefulness and prayer. Shana Tova comes forth from my heart and lips. It embraces you, ties us together in a timeless dance, an eternal circle of lived memory, a celebration. This year I see you from a distance, masked. I see you on Zoom. Our connection is muted, disembodied. But the circle, the dance, the season draws me in. I have to dig in to listen, but it is there. Shana Tova bursts forth from my heart, my pen, my computer pixels. I wish you a good year of good health, a year of hope, a year of connection. However we find it, whatever form it takes, may it be enough to keep our souls singing, our hearts happy, to rid the world of evil and hate and lies. May it be enough to tide us over until I can hug you again, to sit next to you, to sing with you, to pray with you. Our voices join together in celebration and love. We say Shana Tova. Because there are so many differences in our practice this year, I want to take a few minutes for some explanations, instructions, and reminders. First, for those of you tuning in at home or online, wherever you are, we are live streaming on both Zoom and YouTube. YouTube will be recording and retaining everything, so you'll be able to go back and watch anything you may have missed tonight or any of our services. You are muted, but you can participate in the chat function of either platform. It is not being monitored necessarily, so don't say anything to me and expect that I'm going to answer it. That can happen. If you see that you are not muted for some reason, please do so now. Members have received a printed schedule and guide in their goodie bags, which has the links as well as the phone number of our tech coordinator, Larry Carroll. We'll try to address tech issues as they come up. Please remember that there will be glitches and not all can be fixed tonight. And we have several other services to tweak whatever we can as best we can. For those of you in the sanctuary, first, my annual high holiday greeting of our HVAC system is broken, so it's going to be warm in here and there's nothing I can do about it. It's no matter what, every year, I can give you that message. You have also gotten a bag with a prayer book in it and your name on it. Please put your book, teapot, and puppies, if you're using them, in these bags and leave them on your seats or back on the table to use throughout the holidays. Please remember that we will be following all of the social distancing and masking guidelines during services. Be sure your mask is fully covering your nose and mouth at all times. If you need a mask break, please step outside. You'll see that our sanctuary is set up with all of our safety in mind. The seats are at least 10 feet from the bima and 6 feet away from each other. This, as well as the plastic barriers, allow David Steinow to sing on mass more safely than if he were at the demo. I will be masked and unmasked, as you see, at various times, but that's why we built an extra room around the lima, so that I'm talking like this or giving my sermon, that I can do that without a mask on. Finally, so much of Jewish celebrations revolve around the familiar tunes and songs of the season. As we have learned, communal singing and even communal responsive reading is considered high risk for transmission of COVID droplets, even with a mask and the classic and all that. Sadly, I have to ask you who work here to refrain from singing as much as you can, or just sing and read very softly if you can't control your spirit. It is hard. It's hard for me to change that habit. Throughout the holiday observances, we will be making many adaptations and abbreviations to the service or liturgy to how we usually do things. And I appreciate everyone's patience here and out in television land as we try to maintain a healthy environment for us. We are going to continue on page 13 in the prayer book. If you are online and you don't have a prayer book, I invite you to just sit and listen. It's okay. It is good to thank you, O Lord, to sing praises to your name, to proclaim your love every morning and your faithfulness every night. The sound of the tinsel lyre with the music of the lute and harp, your works, O Lord, bring me gladness, your deeds have always been sing. How great are your deeds, O Lord, how profound are your designs. The superficial cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot grasp this. Though the wicked may thrive like grass and doers of evil seem to flourish, yet their doom is sure to come, for yours is the ultimate triumph. Those who oppose you shall be destroyed, workers of evil are sure to be routed. You have given me extraordinary power. I am like one who is been anointed. I see the defeat of my foes, I hear the doom of my enemies. The righteous will grow strong like the palm tree, they will thrive like the cedar of Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God. They will bear fruit even in old age. They will remain vital and vigorous, proclaiming that the Lord is just. My rock, indeed, there is no unrighteousness. Sadina Continue on page 18 with the Baruch for those who are able, who are here, who want to rise for the Baruch, if you are at home and want to rise for the Baruch, or simply just rise in your hearts if you are not going to rise. Page 22. And those of you who join us on Friday nights know that I often will say for the Shema, we talk about Shema means to listen, the commandment for the Israelites to listen, that I would pay attention, heed the message that Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad, there is only one God, there is only the unity of the one God in the universe, and that we call to that. And I often invite you to take a few minutes to please reflect back over your week and listen in your mind for those things that really struck you over the course of the week. I would do it for the year, but boy, it's been such a year. I don't think we have enough time to go through everything to what made us stress over this past year. So we'll just sit in a little bit of silence for a few seconds and then contemplation. Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta im Adonai Elohecha, b'chol nafscha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha, v'hayu advarim ha'eleh, asher anokhi mitzarecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'divaracham, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'lektecha b'derech, Ushakyaha, Ushuneha, Ushakam Lekot, Ayadeha, Vehayudekot, Maineha, Ushakam, Amitzvoteha, Uvishwabeha. Continue silently coming back together on page 28. Mantis Puja Sikim and Polis to Fly, Lieutenant Machine Lerachem. Adonai Elohim, Asher Tzikit, and the Eretz Mitzrayim, but the family of you, Ani Adonai Elohim, Adonai Elohim, Amen. Moses and the children of Israel proclaimed in great exultation, who is like you, O Lord, among the mighty, who is like you, glorious in holiness, revered in praises, doing wonders. Umakuto, v'ratzon kiblu alehem, Moshe v'uvenei Yisrael hadu shivachas v'kafrava, v'imru kulam, v'chamocha v'nim Adonai, v'chamocha v'dol ha'kodesh, noratin lo osefele, Makutecha, makuvanecha, mo'elam l'fnei Moshe, zeli'amru v'yamru. Adonai lo le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar, v'Adonai Yaakov, v'lo galo, v'yad chazak v'ne'elu. Naru, atah Adonai, Ya'al Yisrael. Continuing on page 30. Israel shall observe the Sabbath, maintaining it throughout the generations as an everlasting covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel for all time. In 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day it ceased its work and he rested.
Israel, Agalav is man karim imru, Amen. Yesh me Rava Magora, Neala Muame Amaga, Iparat Ishmabaki, Avi Hidraman, Mehase, Yedhada, Yedale, Yedala, Shame, Kushar, Free food, the Hela, in all your heart, Avashtirat, Push the heart with the mother, Wamiran Beharma, Imru, Amen.
Sound the shofar on the new moon at the time appointed for our new year, as observance of the law for Israel ordained by the God. And another reading from our handout from the supplement, To the New Year by W.S. Merwin. With what stillness at last you appear in the valley, your first sunlight reaching down to touch the tips of a few high leaves that do not stir, as though they had not noticed and did not know you at all. Then the voice of a dove calls from far away in itself to the hush of the morning. So this is the sound of you, here and now. Whether or not anyone hears it, this is where we have come with our age, our knowledge, such as it is, and our hopes, such as they are, invisible before us, untouched and still possible. To continue with the Amidah begins on page 36. It is a silent standing prayer. For those of you who are able, we stand now. Feel free to be seated when you have finished with your prayers, your thoughts in your heart. For those of you who are watching and joining us through video, I'm going to, as I have on our Shabbat services, I step away from the camera so that you can have some moments of reflection without. prosperity. May we and all the people of the house of Israel be inscribed for good and peaceful life. Praise are you, O Lord, source of peace. Oh, say shalom, Bimrama. Uria, say shalom, Aleinu. Ve'achol Yisrael. Bimru, Bimru, Amen. Yahweh Shalom, Yahweh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael, Yahweh Shalom, Yahweh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Cleverly arrange my hair so that I can get the mask on and off easily. They did teach us that in rabbinical school, just so you know. Among the statements pulpit rabbis really hate hearing is, she's repeating her sermons year after year. And while many of us may be tempted to pull out an old sermon from years ago, change a couple of anecdotes and call it a day, most of us usually don't do that. For the most part, sermon writing for the high holidays, or at least thinking about sermon writing for the high holidays, begins months in advance. This year, the moment the synagogue was on lockdown, quarantine, shelter in place, immediately this is what we thought about. So one of the ways that I start planning and thinking about the holidays is by looking back at some of my prior sermons, just to see where I've been, where I want to go. Years ago, I identified that I have trends. I tend to talk about social justice, the Jewish community, and moral obligation. I know that, but I try to come up with different angles each year. This year, I noticed something else. In the last few years, I've talked about racial justice, where being Jewish falls in the spectrum of privilege in America, the overwhelming need for civil discourse, and our moral obligations to one another, even when it means putting ourselves second. I know I would need to change very little to give these sermons again and have them be timely. We are still facing most of the exact same challenges year to year, only a few unthinkable ones thrown in, and we are getting weary. At least I know I am getting weary. But this also reminds us that just hearing or writing a sermon about something is not enough to change things on any deep, meaningful level. Would that any one talk would be enough to change the world completely without any follow-up. For that, we need perseverance, hope, and stamina. I probably don't need to say this, but during a pandemic that has involved periods of quarantining and major disruption to our lives, as well as radical raising of social awareness, perseverance, hope, and stamina are not easy to continue to access. So tonight, even though the world seems like it's moving so fast and is also at a standstill, I want to share with you a story that I can say I have no record of ever having shared with you before. One day, King Solomon decided to humble his minister, Benaiah ben Yehoiada, his most trusted minister. He said to him, Benaiah, there's a certain ring that I want you to bring to me. I wish to wear it for Sukkot, and that gives you 6 months to find it. If it exists anywhere on earth, Your Majesty, replied Benaiah, I will find it and bring it to you. But what makes this ring so special? It has magic powers, answered the king. If a happy man looks at it, he becomes sad. And if a sad man looks at it, he becomes happy. Solomon knew that no such ring existed in the world, but he wished to give his minister a little taste of humility. Spring passed, and then summer, And still Benayat had no idea where he could find the ring. On the night before Sukkot, he decided to take a walk in one of the poorest quarters of Jerusalem. He passed by a merchant who had begun to set out the day's wares on a shabby carpet. Have you by any chance heard of the magic ring that makes the happy wearer forget his joy and the broken-hearted wearer forget his sorrows? Asked Benayat. He watched the old man take a plain gold ring from his carpet and engraved something on it. When Benayat read the words on the ring, his face broke out in a wide smile. That night, the entire city welcomed in the holiday Sukkot with great festivity. Well, my friends, said King Solomon, have you found what I sent you after? And all the other ministers laughed, and Solomon himself smiled. But to everyone's surprise, Benayat held up a small gold ring and declared, "Here it is, Your Majesty." As soon as Solomon read the inscription, the smile vanished from his face. The jeweler had simply written 3 Hebrew letters on the gold band: Gimel, Zayin, Yud. The abbreviation would begin the words, Gam zeh ya'avor, this too shall pass. At that moment, Solomon realized that all his wisdom and fabulous wealth and tremendous power were but fleeting things, for one day he would be nothing but dust. My friends, I wish you were here in person. I wish we could all gather in the social hall and eat challah and kugel, brownies and fruit salad. I miss the opportunity to see you, to hear how your summer has been. I miss hugs of congratulation and hugs of consolation. But this too shall pass. On the other hand, I'm excited by the possibilities that adding a virtual component to our community offer. I have been able to see many of you in different ways, and even many more of you at Friday night services, because we're able to live stream. But this too shall pass. I did not think my heart could break any more than it has in the past, until I heard George Floyd pleading for his mother, with a police officer kneeling on his prone body while he died and the world watched. I never thought I would witness more hate-filled speech and actions targeted at my friends and neighbors because they are different. But then I read Twitter and Facebook and overheard conversations in the grocery store that made me turn cold with anger and fear. But I have to trust that this too shall pass. I also never thought I would see such an outpouring of righteous anger and action for justice in the streets of our central Pennsylvania towns, or that teenagers could mobilize so quickly to make this happen, or that the hunger for unity and healing would be so powerful that it made us rethink how we do and say just about everything. And again, I know this too shall pass. What we learned from Gam zeh ya'avor, this too shall pass, is that no matter how dark or light the world seems to us, tomorrow will be another unprecedented day. We will not be going back to the way things used to be. That was never really an option. Our daily lives are always in flux, and the highs and lows we live through leave their legacy on our future actions in a million little ways. What seems different now is that we can see and feel the change in such an immediate and disruptive way. It remains to be seen what the legacy of this kind of pandemic and social change will be, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Because this too shall pass, we have the opportunity to shift how we act and respond tomorrow morning. This is similar to the concept of tshuva, the process of change that comes about through a reckoning of the past and intention for the future, and the repair of broken relationships through forgiveness. We tend to misunderstand the part about repair and forgiveness, perhaps because of the old adage, forgive and forget. In that model, ostensibly, you apologize, and the person accepts, and everything goes back to the way it was before. Anyone who's ever been on either end of this process can tell you that it is not usually the way it works. The evidence of a relationship having been broken and then mended can last for a long time. Jewish tradition around apology does not talk about forgetting. The assumption is that the purpose of forgiving someone is to no longer hold on to a past incident so that you can move forward. It does not always mean reconciling or picking up where you left off. What it does mean is accepting that the break has happened, that now you are ready to move on to whatever comes next, whether it's reconciliation, whether it is an agreement to move on peacefully. This too shall pass does not mean that everything will go back to the state in which it existed before. It is not a cloud passing in front of the sun for a few minutes. It is more like a huge wave that comes to shore. When it recedes, you get to see what it might have stirred up and what the sand looks like in its aftermath, until the next wave. I don't know what our world is going to look like when the COVID-19 wave recedes. I do know that we will not go back to business as before. When this painful moment passes, we will be left with a new level of awareness about our health, our vulnerability, and the transmission of disease. Hopefully there will be an effective vaccine that will slow the spread of the disease. Hopefully our institutions of government will be better prepared to manage the next public health crisis. Our physical spaces and modes of travel will have to change and be upgraded, create safer air filtration and more space for social distancing. We will need to change how we think about hygiene, prevention, and protection in all of our daily interactions. In terms of the so-called racial justice reckoning that has had so many people in the streets protesting, either for change or for things to stay the same, again, all I can know is that it will never be the same. Racial injustice will not be eradicated by protests, investigations, or even legislation. A combination of these and a relentless calling out of bias and racism when we see it will move us toward real change. When this too passes, it's not that our society goes back to its old ways and institutions. It means that we move to the next phase of integrating change into our personal and communal lives. What is clear is that we cannot sit back and assume someone else is going to do this work. If you have been doing it for years and you are tired, there is still more you can do. Many of us are tired. If you are overwhelmed and don't know where to begin, there are paths to find and follow, because many of us are overwhelmed. And if you have thought, I'm not going to do anything, I beg of you at this time of soul searching and change to think again. You don't have the option to do nothing anymore. Learning and adapting is at the heart of the traditional High Holy Day greetings. The Shana Tova Tihatenu and the Shana Tova Tihatenu. May it be written at Rosh Hashanah, may it be sealed on Yom Kippur. We will be exploring these metaphorical books of life and death that we get to write tomorrow and at Yom Kippur. In the meantime, I hope you all have received your New Year goodie bag, and I thank very much the squad who made all of that possible. In that bag, you found a small journal so that you can start writing down what happens, what will pass, what's next, what you would like to see or not like to ever see again. And as the quote in the front of the journal says, days are scrolls. Write on them what you want be remembered. May we all be blessed with perseverance, hope, and stamina, and everything we need to ride the wave of whatever 5781 brings until Zella Lord, until this passes. Hope is the thing with feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that abashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked for fun of me. Continue on page 58. Page 58. Those who are able to revise for me. Continue with the Warner's Cottage on page 64. And looking ahead, we are remembering the yard sites of Joseph Newman, Aaron Berman, Frederick Golden, Melba Kaufman, Samuel Ostermeyer, as well as those in their first year of passing, Mark Clapper, Jay Harris, Maria Schwartz, Nate Heichman, Marsha Hoffman, and Bernice Stack. Those reciting college, or if it is your custom to rise for college, and if you are at home, you want to rise, so rise in your hearts, and do so. Kidab, Kudash, Shemay Rabba, Ahmad, Ibrahim, Ruzeg, and Mihalmoten, Ayekon, Yumenkum, Ayekon, Israel, and Allah is my Habib, Guru, Amen. Shemay Rabba, Rabba, Name, Rabba, Yibarah, Yishabah, Arishman, Nased, the Dark Lake, Laos, Kusha, Ela, Ul Ela, Nikole, Katam, Shah, Fatush, Betatam, and Hamata, the Ami Mandio Navi, the Shlama Rabba Mishmaya, the Sai, Ami, the Holy Israel, the Say Shalom, Bingo Mapu, Ya Say Shalom, Amen, the Holy Israel, the A few other announcements. I want to thank everyone who made this crazy holiday come to fruition this year with a wonderful committee. And who are here, some of them are here, hopefully are out there, who figured out how we could get together in a way that felt authentic and yet would mitigate as many risks as could, and what the alternatives might be. We had our goodie bag worker bees, who were here doing amazing things, and the ones who were at home. We're at home baking challah. So some of you were honored to have the challah baked challah. I thank the Maritex who were here setting up the tape job. I wish you all could be here to see how Master the photos are taped, and who would get along for the ride. General, we will be doing many things differently over the course of the next few days. Some will be experiments that succeed, some will disappoint, but we will continue on and try to learn as we go. An important difference you'll notice whether you are here or at home live streaming is that our service is significantly shorter. That means certain prayers and readings have been left out, as you might have noticed. And in many cases, you can find those on our YouTube channel. Some are chanted by David Steinow and other members of the congregation that usually participate and who were generous enough to spend the time to make a little video and upload it so that we can have the singing Maritex sisters musical company. Tomorrow our service is from 10 to 11:30. You can use the same streaming links that you used to get on now. On Sunday, we will begin at 10 a.m. We will be doing only the shofar service here in the sanctuary. And I'm grateful to Joan Brabender for working with me to figure out a creative solution to an in-person shofar blowing this year. After the shofar service, I will say a few words about Tashlich, and those who want to proceed to the Susquehanna River for self-guided service. I have sent out to our listserv a copy of the self-guided service as well as the supplemental readings that were really fun for this holiday. So if you would want to do those things, you can print those out. If you don't have them, please email me when Shabbat ends. I will send them to you. Finally, it has been our Yom Kippur custom to put stones on the yahrzeit board next to the names of our loved ones. If you would like to do this, but are not planning to be here for Yom Kippur services, please contact me so we can schedule a time in the coming week, and we can make a private visit to the synagogue to place the stones and to have some moments just out of reflection. I'd like to be sure that gets offered. If you're not able to come, rest assured that, as always, all of the stones will be placed next to all of the names by our minister of service, so that they will all be held. We're going, thank you, helping me remember things I read. I'm going to say Kiddush and Motzi here at the Bima. And unfortunately, we will not be able to then do it together And we will be able to join all of you who are there, but I hope that all of you are either eating challah, have eaten challah, or just say, I hope you're drinking wine, which is okay too. Want to be drinking wine, that's the benefit of the virtual service. And may we all join together to break bread. The Kiddush for Shabbat and the holiday is on page 56. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, v'lochemanu mikol lashon v'kidshanu v'mitzvotav. V'titin לנו Adonai Eloheinu yahava et yom hashavat haseh ואת יום הזיכרון הזה, יום זיכרון תרועה, ירדה מקרא קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים. ופנו בחגה, ופנו קדשת מכל העמים. ודברך, אמת וקיים לידך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך כל הארץ, מקדש השבת, בישראל ביום הזיכרון. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו, והגיענו לזמן הזה. I can't handle my grape juice. I think we all know that right now. And now this, I think it is the 18th or 19th High Holy Day services that I do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Umadi et comuna
or May, after services, and we can get on for about 15 or 20 minutes. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. I look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow and seeing many of you. And for the rest of you.
Shana Tova,
Shana
everyone.
Tova.
Are people gathering to talk?
We're here, Evelyn.
Hi.
Just sharing